Hello. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon if you happen to be watching me from the UK. I think one or two of my UK friends might be planning to. I hope that this finds you well. I am. I don't normally do morning streams, but I'm trying to fit one more stream in before I go away for a week. So this seemed like the best time to do it. So yeah, we'll see who comes along. And welcome to Once Upon a Die. My name is D.A. Xavier, and this is a live stream about solitaire, board game, tabletop games, role-playing games, and all that sort of stuff. Today, as you can see, we are going to be playing Alone Among the Stars by Takuma Okada. This is a solo-only role-playing game. You cannot play this... Well, there are hacks of this that you can play with more than one person, but it is designed to be played by one person. And it's a game about, as it says at the bottom there, exploring fantastic planets. And it's an extremely zen game. It's explorative. It's all about, you describing cool things that you're seeing, and that's kind of it. And I love that. I think it's a fantastic concept. I have not played this game yet. I'm going to see how this goes as a second shot. 1,000-Year-Old Vampire I hadn't played either when I did my run through of that. I think the reason I'm doing that with these solo RPGs is I don't want to come in, especially where, even more so I think than 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, there are 52 prompts in this game, and the reason there are only 52, specifically 52, is that each prompt is generated by the draw of a regular deck of cards. And so, you will have a finite number of things that you can actually pull. For that reason, I did not want to go into this playthrough with any preconceptions or thoughts of, I know what's going to happen when I discover the Two of Hearts. I've said that before. I have an idea of what's going to happen. Didn't want any of that, so I have deliberately not played this game. I found a couple of things briefly, just to kind of get a feel for it, and that's as far as I've gone. This is available on itch.io. If you don't know the website, it's just up here. NoRoadHome.itch.io is the takes you to, I presume it's Takuma Okada's sort of body of work, but also things that are by people based on his work. There's a thing referred to as Alone at the Table, and what it is a collection of hacks of this game. So there's a version of it. In this one, you're exploring planets. There's a version where you are in a room with a serial killer. There's a version, I think there's sort of a fantasy version. I don't know what they all are. I haven't looked into them, but there's lots and lots of different versions based on this premise. And there's also some duet versions. So if you like this and you feel like it's an idea you might want to play with somebody else, there's versions of that too. Itch.io, for anyone who has not visited that website before, is a base for what am I trying to say? It's for indie game developers, and you can download. Sometimes you pay for a game, sometimes you can download the game for free. This one, unless I'm very much mistaken, is available for free, and you simply offer what you would like. And I like that. I think that's great. I think, as long as people support the developers and obviously the system is working, so people are doing that, then that's a really cool way of being able to try something and support a developer through their, process of developing their games and improving their craft. Anyway, that's what Itch is, so if you haven't popped over and visited itch.io, do so. This I actually got as part of the... I forget exactly what it was called now, something like the Bundle for Racial Justice or something like that, but it was supporting Black Lives Matter and other causes, and that's something that I feel very, very strongly about. I want to support those causes, and I want to support Black, Indigenous, people of colour game designers. That's something that I've sort of put into my mind that I want to do more and more of. So I was really, really pleased to see the bundle go up. I don't know how it worked out in terms of the final numbers, but I know that they did a huge, huge number of sales for it. So hopefully that has donated a good chunk to good causes. It was quite an incredible bundle. Designers just submitted their work to it and said, yeah, sure, you can offer this as part of this bundle. And I can't remember how many games went into it. I think it ran into 4 figures, if I remember correctly. It was crazy. Anyway, Alone Among the Stars. This is a very rules-light RPG. You are an adventurer. You're hopping from planet to planet and just discovering things. And there are only 2 things you need to play this game, other than the rules. 1 die, and... Oh, right, there we go. Oh, of course, yes. OBS is slightly behind the times in picking up the die camera versus my face camera. The lag there caught me off guard. But yes, the die and... Where am I going? The deck of cards. The way that this works is when you come to a new planet, you're going to pick up the die, roll it. There's a 5, so I draw 5 cards from the deck and place them face down. And this lag is really going to throw me off. I'm just going to reconnect to my iOS camera because I think there is lag there that should not be happening. Reconnect to device. Refresh devices. There we go. That's immediate. I don't know what was going on there. But I'll put down those 5 cards. And then as I come to each thing that I'm discovering about the planet, I roll the die again. And in the case of rolling a 2, that means that it is arduous to get to. It takes effort. You could also find that it's something that you come across very suddenly, or something that you see while you are resting. And then you turn over the card, you see what the suit is, which tells you where the thing that you have discovered is, and other way around. You see what the number is, and it tells you what the thing is where the thing is that you've discovered, and you see what the suit is, and it tells you the type of thing that you have discovered. So to give you an example, if I discover the 4 of hearts, that means that I've discovered something in a steep canyon, which is a 4. And hearts are ruins, mysterious obelisks, vine-covered temples, abandoned dwellings for people bigger than you, a wrecked spaceship, and so on. And we simply journal that. And so I'm going to take away the various different bits and pieces here and shrink myself down and... Oh, that's right, of course. Ha! There we go. It didn't occur to me that was going to steal my Twitch window. But yes, and so I have an Evernote, which I'm going to use to take these notes. I'm just going to drag that Twitch window out, actually. So that I can check in and see if anybody has any questions. So let's have a go. Let's just see what happens. I don't know exactly how long I'm going to play this for. I have about an hour available. We'll see whether we go that long. There is no ending to this game particularly. I mean, I guess you could end when you go through the deck of cards. It suggests you simply play it until you are tired and want to go home as the character. So let's have a look. We're going to roll up. Let's see how this all starts. So we have a 4. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3, 4 cards and place them face down. I'm going to do that to place them face down so that I can place the individual cards as we go down here, and then you can see what I'm doing. All right. So number 1. Where am I going to put the deck? Let's just put the deck there. Just want to make sure I keep that out of my way. So the first thing I find is going to be something that I come across suddenly. And it is the 5 of Spades. And the 5 of Spades... Okay. Alright, so... this is going to be... The planet's name is... Karath 2. And I'm going to say I landed in a deep forest. little light penetrated to the ground layer, but the trees had platform-like branches which made it easy to climb higher and see, get to the canopy to look out over the landscape. To my astonishment, as I reached the top of the tree layer, I looked out, I looked out to the horizon and saw the most extraordinary cloud formations I had ever seen, and surprisingly low to the ground. Moving in between the upper branches of the trees, the clouds changed colour. As they rolled along. From pastel pinks to dark, threatening blues, and then to calming greens. There was something hypnotic about their shape and the gently pulsating hues. The treetops reflected back the colour, lending gentle greens and yellows to the spectrum. Making it a vivid wash of beauty. So there's our first oh, I've just realized I put my die thing right over the top of that, didn't I? Okay, I'm going to put that down here. Sorry. The layout of all of this, I'm still working from roleplay to roleplay, because in 1000-Year-Old Vampire that top right corner was relatively empty, but roleplay to roleplay I'm still working out how to set my screen up for these. So there we have it. That is our first interaction with this planet. Let's see what else it has to offer. The 5 of Diamonds. And this is also suddenly something I've come across. So, 5 was the cue that said in the treetops. Spades was offering natural phenomena. Diamonds offer living beings. So we're still up there. As I watched the fantastic display, I became aware of the birds occasionally darting out and then back into the clouds. It took me a while to see one properly, as I never knew where they would come from. Next, my eye caught them, but by the time I looked, they were already halfway back into the clouds. Finally, one appeared directly in my line of vision, and I was able to take in the detail. They were beautiful creatures. coloured, dark, greys and browns, and elegant in their form. Their wings folded. They almost dropped out of the cloud into the tree line before their beaks, almost as long as their bodies, opened. I presumed they caught insects. In their mouths as they shot into the tree line, into the branches, weaving their ways through the tangle of leaves expertly and effortlessly. Only a couple of seconds later, their great wings opened and they curved away. And back up, ducking and jinking between the branches once more, and back into their cloud homes. There we go. All right, so we have not only these extraordinary features, but the animals that live within them. I kind of like that the first two things that came up were related to being in the top of the trees. There's a nice continuation of the idea there. 3 of diamonds, so we have more animals by a gentle river. Okay, I'm going to move... I just need to move myself and the dice tray slightly. You know what? I'm going to go up in a second anyway, so I'm just going to cover the top here. There we go. All right. How's that? Sorry. There we go. That's near enough. My eye gets thrown if I feel like the lines are not not level, which is kind of silly, but it does get to me. All right, so we are going to... So we've got to be resting. All right. I worked my way back down the tree line to see... No, not the tree line. That's the wrong phrase. I worked my way back down to the undergrowth to see if I could find anything among the dim light of the forest floor. I walked for a while, my eyes slowly acclimatizing to the darkness, but it was tricky to see anything. Finally, I came across a small, gentle stream flowing along side where I was walking. I settled near it and sat for a moment to rest. As I stared at the stream, I seemed to become able to see within its waters more clearly, and realized that there were things moving beneath the surface. I got closer and peered in. The creatures I saw there were were akin to land invertebrates I had seen before, but never had I come across such animals underwater. They must have been a good 20 feet long, and they walked along the bed of the river on tens of pairs of legs that rapidly shifted to find safe ground, occasionally probing the rocks and dirt at the bottom of the river before continuing. Though there was little light, occasionally a part of their long bodies caught a flicker at just the right angle and a flash of silver broke through the oppressive twilight. Oops. Double S's. All right. So there is our second creature that we have discovered. Alrighty. Billy says, this is almost reading like a game of writing prompts from this tiny snippet I have seen. It is. It absolutely is. Just to quickly reiterate for those who have joined since I explained at the very beginning, these are prompts. We're visiting planets. You roll a die to say how many things you're going to find. In this case, it's 4 for the planet I'm on right now. And you roll a die to see how you come across a thing, turn over a card, and the combination of suit and number of the card tells you roughly what it is that you found. So in the case of the 3 of diamonds, I found living beings by a gentle river. I went for in a gentle river, but I guess I was by the gentle river when I found them. And you describe them, and that's the entire game. It's very, very zen, very gentle, something a little bit different that I thought would be a lot of fun to discover. And Grim180620, Oi de Brasil. Hello from Canada, back to Brazil. Nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. All right, so our final thing on Carath 2 is going to be the Ace of Clubs. Ace is in a field taller than you, and clubs are plants and other immobile forms of life. So I began walking again after my rest, reinvigorated and determined to find out what else this planet had to offer before I moved on. I had seen a dip in the trees when through the rolling cloud line, and I made off in what I thought was that direction. I came across what I can only describe as a clearing as the light streamed down. Shifting through the various hues the clouds imparted. However, far from being low grasses or a sand bed. The clearing was full of tall tendrils that seemed too thin and supple to stand up on their own. Yet they did. They stretched almost 10 feet up into the air, brushing the lowest levels of leaves belonging to the trees closest to them. Halfway up each stem, I found growths that seemed like bulbous tumors on the grasses. I wondered as to their purpose. As I gently parted the grasses to walk through them. Then I saw one burst. And the orange flowers of the plants exploded into being. Immediately falling to the ground, pulling down not only their own stem, but all stems within a foot in every direction. I saw other such pockets of orange colour on the forest floor, or on the clearing floor, and realized that only a fraction of the stems survived to flower. That the ground was still so thick with their numbers astonished me, and I took a little time before I left to study their life pattern as more flowers bloomed. Alright, so that is Karath 2. We have had all 4 of our prompts, and so that is everything that I have discovered on this planet. And it's now time for me to go elsewhere. Billy says, fun British versus North American English thing I noticed. You use the word acclimatizing, which I didn't know was a word, because in North American we tend to use acclimate. The more you know. That's true. It's something I've noticed, actually, in terms of... I've heard people use acclimate, and in my head, that's not, you know, I understand completely what it means, but yes, it is absolutely a difference between the two, and my mind kind of goes, oh, that's not what I'd say. There's a few of those. I don't know how many will come up in this, but yes, there are definitely a few things that, quite apart from my accent, show me off as being British, just because I say things slightly differently. Alright, so, we are on to our next planet. acclimatize makes more sense. You know what? I think that's just because it's an eyes word, which I think is a very common formation that we've become used to. That would be my guess, anyway. Who's to say? All right. Oh, I just realised I didn't roll to see how I came across those plants. I should have done. Never mind. That's fine. All right, we're going to go on to another planet. This one is going to be called what? You normally name the planets at the end, but for the purposes of my journaling, I like to do it now. This is going to be called Ethon. And it is going to be made up of how many amazing things? Just two. Just two things we're going to look at. All right. We are going to come across the first one. Number one, it's arduous to get to, and it is the 5 of Hearts. These treetops, I'm going to be done with the trees in the first 2 planets. All right, so... all right. So 5 in the treetops. Hearts are ruins of some sort. So we're going to say landing on this planet was dangerous. I had left one kind of tree to find another, but these were more like mineral growths stretching jaggedly into the sky. I flew low over them, but struggled to find somewhere to put down. I slowed my ship to slowed my ship as far as I dared so that I could better hunt for a landing ground. But I was given pause for thought when I flew over a derelict freighter that had obviously been more recklessly ambitious than me. It hung a few feet under the line of trees, but either it had crashed on top of them or had been caught at their peak and they had grown through it. In what looked like 50 different places. The pointed tips of the growths protruded through the metal, having curved back the hull as they broke through. I kept on flying. Deciding that attempting to land here was not worth the risk. Not so much that it's arduous to get to, I guess, but that it was arduous to try and act on in any way. Billy says, you know, Ethon was discovered by a person named Ethan. He thought he was being clever. Oh, I like that. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Ethan discovered Ethon, and now his ship is stuck in the trees forevermore. Alright, we are going to suddenly come upon the Queen of Hearts. The Queen of Hearts is more ruins in deep water. Okay. When I finally found a clearing in the growths large enough to land, I realized that it was a lake of sorts that stretched not quite to the horizon. It was a long way into the distance. The liquid was somehow dark and clear at the same time. I took my ship down low and turned on the lights on its underside. They pierced the surface and showed me the ruin of what I can only presume to have been a city. Buildings sank deeper than my beams could penetrate. And I saw that they stretched away in every direction. They were different heights, depths, and styles, but there was a synchronicity to their aesthetic that suggested a metropolis of sorts that had long ago fallen beneath the surface of the liquid that now kept it drowned and out of sight. There is nothing on this planet to keep me here. And with that, I leave Ethon. In case anyone is wondering, by the way, I realise I hadn't mentioned this yet, but this is a rather unusual deck of cards. The one thing I realised I do not own in any way, shape or form is a simple, plain deck of cards. I have several decks of cards, but they all have something on them. And this one I got from a place called Bar Nightjar in London, England. And it's an amazing speakeasy-style cocktail bar that's underground in Old Street in London. And has some of the... It's an expensive night out, but my goodness, it's got some of the best cocktails I've ever had. And these cards are actually cocktail recipes. So if I just switch to my OBS for a moment. For example, there's the Arcane Collins here on the Five of Hearts, which is, I assume, a take on something. A lot of these are kind of riffs on something. But it actually has the ingredients down at the bottom. It doesn't have a recipe. You can't make the cocktail purely based off these cards. But the ace through 10 are those, and then the face cards are personalities. So this is an American jazz singer, Sarah Vaughan. And I just like, I really enjoy this deck of cards. It was no particular reason I picked it. I just grabbed a deck of cards on my way here. But that's what they are. Alright. 4 things on my next planet. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this planet is going to be called... Pelor 4. I have no idea what any of these names mean. They're just names. Alright, so the first thing we find is going to be something we come upon suddenly. There's a lot of suddenly coming upon things in this playthrough. The 8 of Diamonds. So on a glacier, living beings on a glacier. Okay. I broke through the atmosphere on Pelor 4 near one of its polar caps. The exterior temperature was many, many degrees below freezing. But it was still and bright in the sunlight that streamed down. The ground was covered in some kind of ice, and my ship determined that it would be safe for me to land. So I put on my thermal suit and touchdown in the center of what seemed to be a particularly solid area. As the door opened, I was startled to see a face staring right at me. Obviously, my landing had elicited curiosity in one of the local species. The creature had 6 legs, a thick, furry hide, and a face that blinked at me with 4 pairs of eyes. It nodded let out a gentle, deep, lowing sound, and turned. I approached it and stroked its hide, its fur even. It was soft, but seemed hardy and an excellent coat for an Arctic animal. It shook itself and turned to me, gesturing towards its back. Hesitantly, I put a hand on top of it, and it gestured again. pulled myself up, and it seemed satisfied as I swung a leg over its back and sat astride it. With little warning, it started moving, and I had just enough time to grab a couple of clumps of fur before it picked up speed into a full gallop and took me away from my ship. Alright, we'll see how this goes. Billy says, Trivar for the next planet. Trevor wants some love. Oh, I love it. Alright, Trivar, yes. Alright, what do we got? We got another 3. Did that roll? I don't know if that rolled properly. I normally don't do this, but I'm just, for the sake of getting something a little different, I come as I'm resting. Okay. 2 of Hearts. My ride on the creature was quite extraordinary. The ice cap appeared to be teeming with life. As we moved, I caught sight of many smaller creatures. Some brightly coloured and only a few centimeters long. And some the size of domestic, oops, I can't spell, domestic canines, and camouflaged to the ice. There was nothing in the air. And a quick study of my suits. Oh, oops, that's not what I meant to do. What's the word? Telemetry. Quick study of my suit's telemetry readings gave me to understand that the density of the air dropped very suddenly to a point where it would be hard to live higher up. After some time, the light began to fade, and my ride slowed down. Eventually, it sat and gestured ahead. I climbed down and activated my suit's dark vision mode, though the moons were offering some degree of light also. My jaw dropped as I saw the enormous structure ahead. I had not seen it as we approached, but now I detected the hint of what must be some kind of protective field around it, which evidently also made it difficult to see from a distance. It was shaped in a way that suggested a temple of sorts to me, with towers on its corners and a central spire. That seemed to point to the moons above. Cracks in the structure seemed to have been closed in by ice, and the whole thing gave me a sense of being held together by the frigid temperatures around it. Okay, so there's a little bit more of a perhaps advanced civilization here. 2, incidentally, says that I discover something under the light of the moon, brackets Z. I thought more than one moon would be interesting. Oops. Alright, well, suddenly, again, 6 of Spades. On the snowy peak of a mountain. And spades are natural phenomena. Okay, I'm going to take that one slightly loosely, and given that I have offered a peak in my previous description, I'm going to try and keep this into more of a flowing story. I'm not going to suddenly disappear off to a mountain. I passed through the field surrounding the building, and immediately, I'm going to adjust that. I passed safely through the field surrounding the building, and immediately the blurriness of its silhouette resolved. This structure was ancient. It had to be. While clearly sturdily built, detail on the outside was weathered away, and cracks ran through it. On every surface. To my astonishment, the ice had not covered one of the entrances, and I walked inside. Indoors, it was frozen over as well, but not to the same extent. I heard the echoes of my footsteps coming back to me from every angle and marveled at the scale of the interior. I wandered for what felt like over an hour before I found the steps near the center that led up into a cylindrical tower. I climbed the spiral, stopping now and then to catch my breath. I don't know how long it took me to reach the top, but there was a door there, and I gently nudged it open. At once, the whole stairwell was flooded with a red glow, and I covered my eyes for a moment as they adjusted to the massively increased light. When I could finally look, I gasped as I gazed upon a small crystalline replica of the exact temple I was standing in. And around it, a whole city of crystal. The entire diorama had was a dull crimson color, but the temple shone a bright carmine. Color that suffused the stairwell behind me and the room I found myself in. Alright. Last one. 5. As I am resting. Jack of Hearts. Jack is in the desert. Interesting. How do I get to a desert from the top of an icy temple? Oh, I know. I don't know what compelled me, but I reached out and touched the temple made of crystal. It flashed, and I heard a chime like a fingernail on the side of a glass. The rest of the diorama burst into life, and I had to cover my eyes again. It was so bright that my vision could not adjust, and I had to leave the room. I walked back down the stairs, wondering... Oh, sorry, I actually gemmed that. My vision could not adjust, and my suit could not compensate for the lumosity. And I had to leave the room. I walked back down the stairs, wondering what I had discovered. And to my astonishment, on exiting the main door, my surroundings had changed completely. Where there had been ice, there was now a bustling city with the sun beating down on it. I had no idea how long I had been in the temple, but I did not think it had been long enough for the star to once again be at its zenith. Puzzled, I walked through the town. The people took note of me, but no one spoke to me directly. Conversations went on. Spell things correctly. Conversations went on. But I was like a passing curiosity, not to be approached. I attempted to address a couple of the city's inhabitants. Why can I not spell this morning? But they ignored me or walked away. I could not tell if I was in some illusory world or whether this was real. Unconsciously, I must have walked back in much the same direction from which I had come. After perhaps an hour of study, wandering and questioning everything around me, I suddenly and unexpectedly passed back through the protective field, finding myself back on the ice. I turned to see the outline of the city and its people blurred once more by the field. I raised my hand to see the difference in temperature between where I stood and the other side of the field. Not a foot away from me, and the field blocked it. I could no longer pass through. Disappointed and confused, I turned to see I had come out close to my ship. I returned to it and activated the scanners, but they showed nothing more than the ice field I had landed on. Mysterious. Very, very mysterious. I have no idea what just happened there. This is kind of cool. I'm finding these solo RPGs are so interesting because I find I don't know what's happening. Like, this is entirely stream of consciousness as I'm writing. And even I'm not certain what some of this means. I think these could be really interesting places to go back and visit somehow. And actually, there's another game I'm now very, very tempted to use on this planet called Ex Novo that I'm going to play at some point in time, which is solo sort of RPG-ish, where you're actually, well, it doesn't have to be solo, but you can play it solo, RPG-ish, where you're actually creating a city, and I'm kind of curious at the idea of coming back and creating this place now. Fascinated to know what it's about. All right, I'm going to do one more planet, and then I'm going to call it a night. Night? It's not night. It's 12:37 in the afternoon. But this... Okay, I'm going to do 2 more planets. Because this one... this is going to be... this is going to be... Trivar. I'll run with that, Billy. And... I am going to find 4 of hearts... Okay, 4 of hearts is a steep canyon, ruins and a steep canyon. Just going to jump back for a second. There we go. If I had thought Ethon was... Of course, it's the 2 planets that are similar to people's names. If I had thought Ethon was difficult to land on, Trivar presented a problem all of its own. The planet was mostly molten, and I considered not entering its minimal atmosphere at all. However, I detected something like a city and descended to have a look. In what felt like the most unlikely geological construct I had seen, there was a deep canyon in the planet that had high walls protecting it on either side from the burning liquid that threatened to swallow the whole planet. I could not believe that... Sorry, I'm talking very quietly. I could not believe that this canyon was a natural phenomena, and still less so could I believe that that life had found a way to survive at the bottom. And yet there was the ruin of what appeared to be a city. It was old and deserted, and clearly no one had lived there for a long time. It could have been a research station, but I did not get that sense from the complexity of the structures, roadways, and district layout that seemed apparent from the relic that lay beneath my craft. I wanted to land and have a closer look, but as I approached the surface, my retro rockets blasted chunks off the highest buildings and crumbled those struck by the debris. I gently added power and flew away. Whatever had lived there at some point in history, it was clearly meant to remain lost. There we go. A simple planet, but an interesting one. Now, final planet. No, I'm not taking another one. Let's do it. Where are we? I don't think I have time for a 6. I'm going to roll a D3 that's 2, 3, or 4. Okay, 4. For those who are less familiar with dice, although if you're watching something about an RPG, I assume you know dice, a D3 would be a 1 or a 2 equals a 1, a 3 or a 4 equals a 2, a 5 or a 6 equals a 3. I just added 1 to each of those numbers. So I guess I rolled a D3 plus 1. But this will be our final planet. So here are 4 cards. The first one, 5. As I am resting, I am going to discover the 10 of clubs. This is going to be... Oh, yes, I can do that. Excellent. 2, 7, 2, 9, 5. I have no idea what that number is. It's just the first 4 numbers I hit. 10 of clubs. On a cliff face. Plants. All right. I brought my ship in to land. A safe distance from what appeared to be a an inhabited city, according to the scanners on my ship. Stepping out onto the flat top of a mountain, I wandered a short way to the end of a safe path down the side and sat down to eat. A few moments after resting, after sitting, a frond of glowing fern drifted up from beneath me and hung in the air. It pulsed a deep purple. I wondered if I had disturbed some kind of fungal growth when another and then another floated up. I began to reach out to touch one when I sensed a subtle rumble beneath me. sixth sense told me to move, and I ran back the way I had come, just as a foot-thick tendril of some kind of plant burst through the side of the mountain and slammed down where I had just been sitting. I zigzagged back up the path, trying to hold my footing and keep moving. I heard impacts behind me as the plant thing struck the mountain. And breathed a sigh of relief, though I kept running, when I heard the impacts fade behind me. Evidently, the creature could not reach me in the center of the mountain. I jumped back into my ship to move and land elsewhere, hoping that the rest of the planet might be more hospitable. I said it was a Zen discovery game. I never said you couldn't be attacked. I have no idea what that was, but that was unexpected. 1. Arduous to get to. 3 of hearts. Okay. I set my ship down on a plane and stepped out gingerly. After a few moments, nothing seemed to be coming for me, and I moved with greater confidence. The ground beneath me was pliable in a strange way. It wasn't marshy, but it had the sense that there was marsh somehow underneath it. And I struggled to keep my balance. I moved forwards until I found a small outcropping of rock, and I sat, breathing heavily. To my left, there was a river flowing, and the sound calmed me and helped me take a breath. On the other side, I saw huts. That had the look of rustic homes for a wandering people. I called across the river, curious if I would be answered, but no one and nothing responded or came out. My suit sensors indicated that the water in the river had a high level of acidity, and so I decided not to cross, but observed the huts for some time. They appeared to be abandoned. I drifted into a light sleep, soon after and woke up. Refreshed, unharmed, and with no evidence that anyone had returned home. Interesting. 4. Very suddenly, I come upon the 5 of clubs. Treetops again. That's all the treetops. All 4 5s have come out of the deck. And clubs were going to be... okay, cool. Setting off in a different direction, I found what appeared to be not a forest, but a sizable clump of trees. They were gnarled and old looking, but strong and seemingly vital. I wandered into the center and saw flashes of color at the top of the trees. I climbed. Oh, I didn't... Oh, it's very suddenly, right. I climbed upwards. A much more difficult climb than the last great forest I had entered on Karath 2. I was close to the top when I almost fell out of the tree I was climbing. A fleshy red substance broke out of the bark, sending shards of wood back at me. I steeled myself for another attack, but none came. I looked back up and realized that several other trees had similar growths. The one above me had thrown out some kind of powder, and I realized that they must be a fungus of sorts. Perhaps they lived within the tree, and when it was time for them to spore, they burst out, propelling their spores away and into the canopy of the trees and down to their bases to begin whatever their growth cycle might be. There was an elegance to the process, but the fungi themselves were blocking my way up, and I sensed the hint of a repulsive scent, mostly filtered by my suit. I descended again and moved on. Oh, all right. Finally, While resting, we come across the King of Spades. Alright. I came out the other side of the trees and sat with my back to one on the edge of the small wood. I sat and looked at the most beautiful thing I had seen yet. Floating some 20 feet up into the air. Were crystals of some unknown material, at least to my suit's sensors. They flashed reds, greens, and yellows. And the reflections of the sun that caused those flashes flickered across the ground, making a pattern of colour that moved like a living stained glass window. I had no concept of what made them float. But it was a beautifully relaxing thing to watch. They gently rotated, each on its own axis, and apparently independent of all of the others. I don't know how long I sat there watching, but when I stood once more, there was a sense that I had found something that sated my wanderlust, at least for now. Something truly extraordinary. That overwhelmed my senses and left me at peace. And there we go. That is the end of my game of Alone Among the Stars. This has been quite a wonderful experience. I didn't know what to expect, and I loved it. This was stunning. I really, really enjoyed that. It's so zen. It's such a gentle thing to do. You can make it as exciting or as calming as you would like. Obviously, this was mostly calm, but I wanted to throw in a little bit of excitement towards the end. But now that I have looked through this once, I think there are ways of digging into this deeper and playing a longer game where you kind of eke out more of a story from what's going on. It's fantastic. What a simple system and what an effective system. I really, really enjoyed that. So do head to... I'll put this back up very briefly. Do head over to noroadhome.itch.io, which you can see up there at the under the title, and check out some of these games. Takuma Okada has done a fabulous job with this, and I really, really enjoyed that. So simple and so effective. Well, this has been Once Upon a Die. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Thank you for streaming, David, says Billy. Thank you for joining me, Billy. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. I am going away now for a week, so there won't be any streams for a while. Quite apart from anything else, there's going to be very, very, very little internet where I am. Just going up to a family cottage to kind of get away for a bit. But we will be resuming standard Once Upon a Die fare in 10 days or so. So I'll have another stream coming out then. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope this was something you could sort of sink into a little bit of Zen storytelling for a little bit. In the meantime, please do check out my other work. I realised I have a separate OBS scene for RPGs, and I don't have any of my social media loaded into... I usually have a scroller at the bottom. But do head over to my YouTube channel, look up Once Upon a Die or DA Xavier, and please subscribe to me over there. Anything that goes up on my Twitch will get put up onto YouTube. Also follow me at Twitch, twitch.tv/Once Upon a Die. I would really love a follow there, and you'll see, hopefully, a couple of times a week is my ideal at the moment, hoping to do more than that as things move on. But a couple of times a week now I'm streaming solo RPGs, solo board games with a one-player mode, all that sort of thing. So if that appeals to you, please come and join me there. You can check me out on Instagram at Once Upon a Die Podcast, on Twitter at Upon a Die Podcast. There's no once in my Twitter for some reason. I should probably put that in there. And you can check out, I'm Board Game Geek Guild number 2525. And check me out on wherever you get your podcasts too. Once Upon a Die, the podcast, is where this originally came from, and it's a one-player gaming podcast that looks at solitaire games, either that have no theme, in which case I just talk about them, or have a lot of theme, in which case I also write a radio play based on a single playthrough of the game and have it fully voice acted. It's been on hiatus for quite some time, but it is something I'm going to be bringing back, sort of working out what I'm doing between now that I started the streaming, but also getting the podcast back up and running as things move on. But yes, please do come along and search me out. Also, 2 quick recommendations for you. If you like board game streaming, I highly recommend you go over and check out Into the Meepleverse. That's MEEPLEVERSE, Into the Meepleverse. That is my friend Billy. Billy and Maggie run the Into the Meepleverse podcast, and Billy's been live streaming a lot as well. And he does some fantastic board gaming content, so please do go and check that out. And also, Moyle's Meticulous Minis. Moyle is M-O-Y-L-E, so Moyle's Meticulous Minis on Twitch. That's Scott Moyle, who does miniature painting and does a stunning job of it. And he streams 4 times a week for 5 hours. Excuse me, something in my eye. And he's an excellent host and commentator as he's doing it, but also a stunning painter who does a really, really good job. So go over and check out that account too if you would like to. And, thank you for anyone who's watching right now. Billy has posted the Twitch links to both of those in the chat, and yeah, go and check out those other accounts. Hope you enjoy. I hope you like my content, and I will see you guys again in, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 days. Hopefully towards the end of next week, and we'll be doing something else I will announce on my social medias. But for now, take care, have a good day, have a good week, and I will see you in due course, and keep rolling those dice until the game is done. Have a good afternoon.